From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022 for April 29, 2022. Major developing details tonight, and they aren't good on the economic front. We started the day with the PCE number release, and boy was it bad. It showed that the economy is shrinking. We continue throughout the day with the impact of that Amazon miss for those quarter two and quarter three numbers, and then we came in with the Apple miss of those numbers as well. The good news on your front is that stimulus checks have landed. Big stimulus checks, 4 stimulus checks from not just the federal government, not just from Joe Biden, but also from the states. And tonight's 1 hour special broadcast, you're going to see those incredible checks. In fact, 4 more checks were released last night. I'll show you how to get those brand new checks. And while whether we're in a bear market, whether we're in a recession, whether we're in stagflation, there is big money available for you tonight. And I'll show you all these incredible checks. But we're going to start first, of course, with the breaking news as that major fall of stocks continue to unravel. The S&P will end on the worst month since the start of the pandemic this night. And then the Nasdaq is down 10% for the worst month since the pandemic started in March of 2020 as well. Thereafter, Amazon shares dropped 12%. Apple shares dropped significantly as well. This is big problems across the board as the Build Back Better Act has new life, and that new life is faltering economic data. We also started with the PCE number today, and that signals that the U.S. economy is not potentially as strong as we thought it was. We had the GDP number this week as well. We had the housing numbers additionally, and the supply chain disruption is now causing problems for not just your cost of goods, not just for corporate earnings, but also for the growth of this economy. And the Federal Reserve is trying to battle that by raising interest rates. It also impacts your SS300. Over this next 1 hour broadcast, we'll look at the incredible checks that are landing. Lots of money, and what's important to know is that you're going to see tonight more checks landing by direct deposit than ever before in this entire 2022. Therefore, stimulus checks that are landing by direct deposit and more tonight than ever before. How do you get them? You become a member. You become a member over the next 1 hour broadcast. We're going to go over all these incredible checks. Because from the shores of Santa Monica, California, my job is to get you those checks. My job is for you to clean up. And my job is to make sure you're financially independent. Go under this video and become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. And with that, let's get to it. Let's get to the breaking news. It all starts right here on Evenings LALATE. And good evening, everybody. For April 29th, 2022, we nearly end the month with economic data that wasn't any better than the month started. We started with the problems of Vladimir Putin. Tonight, we end with the problems of the subvariant of Omicron and its impact on supply chain disruption across the United States. But the context for you is that this is good news. Why? Let me put this in context before we go into the breaking news tonight. The context is that Democrats and Republicans give you stimulus relief when they see the economy is not doing well. The midterm elections is weeks away, and the potential to get you checks has to happen starting in the month of May to get them before election night or before the time you mail your ballots in by mail. The good news is that the economic data is bad news. And when the economic data is bad news, it means there's more hope to get stimulus out the door. We'll be analyzing also what the negotiations are having right now for Build Back Better Act. But here's what you need to know tonight. What you need to know tonight for April 29th, 2022, before we get into the incredible details, is that more checks have landed. More forced stimulus checks have landed by direct deposit than even just last night on the April 28th broadcast. Stay with me to the very end of this broadcast because over this 1 hour show, we're going to go over All the incredible checks landed now by direct deposit. All the checks come in thereafter. And then why the economic data today is really supporting you to get more money out the door. All right, let's get to the details, starting with how the day started and then ending with how the day ended. The totality of the day was bad economic data left and right. And whether you call it a bear market or whether you call it a bull market, don't matter. I call it a bear at the moment. It all signaled that there was bad economic data and the data couldn't stop. We started the day with the impact of last night's corporate earnings. If you watch Evenings LA last night, we had the corporate earnings from Amazon and Apple come in. And boy, today we could digest them because they were horrific. I'm not talking about just any stock. I'm not talking about any bad day. I'm talking about the worst numbers of two of the biggest stock and corporations in the United States in nearly 2 years. In fact, these numbers are so bad, we haven't seen numbers this bad from some of these companies since 2014. Boy, folks, this is horrific news. Let's go over the details starting right now. U.S. stocks fell Friday, and we ended the month with the S&P down about 6%, the worst pace of performance for the S&P since the start of COVID. Then the Nasdaq ended the month about 10% down, the worst since March 2020 when COVID started. The numbers aren't bad, not bad only there. Also, the Dow was down 3% for the month. Let's go to why the numbers were so bad and what it tells us about our money and across the board. When we look at the shares of Amazon, they fell an enormous 12%. At some point of the day, they were down 14% plus. This is because Friday, we had the impact of the company giving us revenue outlooks that shows that the current quarter fell short of Wall Street's estimates, and that Amazon could now see the worst performance of its company since January 2014. Yeah, you heard me right. This is not good news. The second quarter, which we're currently in, is now focusing revenue growth would slide, meaning we wouldn't have growth, we would actually decrease. At a 3% fall for Amazon, can you imagine a 3% fall of revenue for Amazon in second quarter 2022 compared to what Wall Street is anticipating of a 7% growth? Folks, this is horrific corporate earnings numbers. If you don't think it's bad enough, well, let me tell you this number. Expectations for first quarter that was reported yesterday, that was the first 3 months of this year. Guess what they said for the first quarter? Wall Street is expecting a earnings of $16 a share. Amazon posted a loss of $7.56. Folks, this is really bad. It impacts you so many ways dramatically. It impacts how the guidance of where this economy is going. It impacts whether we should do corporate taxes higher, like Joe Manchin wants to do. It impacts how bad this economy is rebounding from COVID. It tells us a lot, but it tells us it's not Amazon only. It's proliferation caused by supply chain disruption. More about that supply chain disruption in a second. We also have the details that came in about Apple. Apple fell substantially, as it now says that its third quarter, yes, not this quarter, not the prior quarter, but the third quarter this year could be even worse. It's now giving guidance that third quarter revenue could be horrific, and this is because of supply chain disruption. Marketfield Asset Management Chairman Michael Stroud says the current market performance is threatening a long and painful correction. Correction's a fancy word to say a crash. Long and painful correction. March 2020, for instance, saw a very sharp decline, but equally fast recovery. You saw that on the channel at the time. Remember when the pandemic hit, we had that V curve where we went down and we went back up. And then we had that K-shaped curve. Yeah, we're talking about that a lot in 2020, 2021. What are they saying today? We're crashing and we're not coming back up. I've fallen and I haven't gotten up. Oh boy. March 2020 saw that sheepdog climb, but a quick, fast recovery. But the current episode looks much like a long-lasting losses for investors piling into 2022. Ouch. And Intel also reported troubling earnings as well. Meantime, also doing poorly was Robinhood. What does this mean for you? It means the Build Back Better Act is needed faster than later, because the way that stimulus works is when the economy is faltering. When the economy is not doing well, when the economy is shrinking, people give you stimulus. When it's doing really well, they sometimes don't want to do it. let's go over where we are tonight. It's a very different narrative than it was in 2020. In 2020, we had Mitch McConnell saying the economy is great. It was horrible. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and Nancy Pelosi saying it was awful. It was awful. Tonight, we have Republicans and Democrats agreeing the economy's not doing well. And so Republicans and Democrats both have to do something. They can't sit back and do nothing. So this is why I'm, for the first time on this channel now, saying I think that bipartisan support to get a version of Build Back Better Act done is very likely. Let me tell you why. First, we have the Manchin-Sinema equation, which we learned a little bit more about this week. On April 28th, 2022, last night, we learned that Kristen Sinema now is positioning herself in opposite to Joe Manchin. This is really surprising. A new series of reports says that Kristen Sinema does not like what Joe Manchin wants in the Build Back Better Act. He has made very clear for over a year he wants higher corporate taxes, and then he wants lowering the national debt. A lot of Democrats agree with him. But what does Kristen Sinema want? Nothing to touch corporate taxes. She says Joe Manchin touches corporate taxes, she's voting against the Build Back Better Act. So Joe Biden must be watching this. I'm certainly watching this. People feel burned by Joe Manchin. A top Democrat says tonight they just can't trust him. But I'd have problems with Kristen Sinema as well, because I have never heard from her that she doesn't like what Joe Manchin doesn't like. Now, the White House had comments about those comments as well. Andrew Bates, the spokesman for the White House, says anyone representing their sentiments is not speaking for the White House directly. So what is the White House thinking about the situation? They're still negotiating good faith and clear faith. The senators now indicated that they'll have this teed up for a vote by Memorial Day weekend. I gotta say that with a straight face, even though I want to giggle when I say that, because we heard that all last year. Remember Memorial Day 2021, they didn't get it done. Now they say Memorial Day 2022 is when they want to have the vote. But here's what's at issue, is that the revenue stuff is definitely not settled, says a person close to the negotiations on Build Back Better Act. And it's not clear who's going to settle it. The revenue is exactly what I just talked about. How do you pay for Build Back Better Act? And that Kristen Sinema part of the equation, I can't confirm that that reporting is correct. I'm just telling you what I see out there. A report that says Kristen Sinema will not touch corporate taxes to pay for Build Back Better Act. Well, the question is, if you don't touch that, then how do you do it? The good news came on April 26, earlier this week, when Joe Manchin introduced a standalone bill with him and Lisa Murkowski. What was that standalone bill? It's a standalone bill to address the energy situation in the United States. He's head of the Energy Committee. And to deal with that part of energy in Build Back Better Act as a separate bill. I like it. Let's understand, the Lisa Murkowski, Joe Manchin bill is never going to become law. But I like when someone does a standalone bill because it helps people think about things. Mitt Romney did this a lot in 2020 when he introduced a lot of Romney bills, one after another. Ultimately, we always understood none of them were going to become law, but they all helped people think about the situation. And when people think and talk, they negotiate and they get it done. The negotiation of the Build Back Better Act is a very big issue tonight. Why? Because May is upon us. And May is likely when they're going to get it done, because otherwise no one would get a check by Election Day. Now, let's remember, Election Day is not actually really November anymore, because most people vote by mail. And that voting by mail may start as early as 90 days out. That means not November, not October, but September. September means that they would have to get the checks out by August. If they get the checks out by August, they have to sign this into law by July. And to sign into law by July, they got to get it done starting in the next 4 weeks. That is why the situation is moving very quickly. So the good news on Build Back Better Act tonight may take a little bit of a breath to say, but I think you got the point of what I just said, which is, number one, they got to get the Build Back Better Act done in the next 4 weeks. If they don't, then there's no Build Back Better Act done by the midterm elections. Number two, they got to get something out to the American people, and the they is both Republicans and Democrats, because if they don't, both parties are in trouble. Let's show the equation. If the Democrats do Build Back Better Act and pass it, then they win in the midterm elections, because they point to the Republicans saying, we got stuff done, they got nothing for you. Now, if the Democrats do Build Back Better by recon and with no Republican support, and it falls apart, it doesn't pass, then guess what? The Republicans say, hey, Democrats can't get anything together. But if they both do it as bipartisan support, then they can both cheer victories for themselves right into the polling place for election night. So I believe that bipartisan support is highly more likely by the day. Now, also important is, of course, that economic data. The economic data continues to ravel out of control, and that economic data needs a lot of help. And that help is not all Jay Powell. What's important to understand is that Jay Powell, he deals with inflation. He doesn't deal with stimulus. He doesn't deal with bolstering the economy. Tonight, where's that economy? Tonight, the U.S. economy is shrinking. The gross national product of the U.S. economy has nothing to do with Jay Powell. But what he does impacts it. Who does something that impacts it directly? Congress and the White House. The gross national product of the U.S. economy is shrinking very quickly, by the minute, by the hour, by the week on this channel. It was supposed to be 7.1% this month. It dropped at 6.9% in missed targets. Then, a White House insider said it's dropping to 3.7% later this year. That was a surprise by that White House insider off the record, because Wall Street's projecting 4% growth by the end of the year. Now, let's remember, GDP is the gross national product. How simpler is it to say what GDP is? It's a growth number. Is the economy growing? Pretty simple. Is the economy growing? Then it's a positive number. It's 4% or 6%. If the economy is shrinking, it's a negative number. And if the economy is in recession, it's a very clear, prolonged negative number. So Wall Street was looking for 4% by the end of the year. Jay Powell is looking, the White House insider says 3.7%, saying Wall Street's overvaluing it. I'm saying 0%. Tonight, Goldman Sachs has a 35% chance we're in recession for 2 years starting next year. So they're saying a 35% chance of a negative GDP number. Deutsche Bank says we're going into recession for 2 years starting next year. And I was the first to say we're definitely going to recession for 2 years starting next year. So that means by all likelihood, we potentially could be by 0% at the end of the year on the GDP number. Now, when talking about GDP, we have something that's really on point, and also on point for this guy, Jay Powell. That number came in today, and while a lot of people were talking about Apple and Amazon, I was really focused on this number. This number was the PCE. It's a measure that the Federal Reserve uses to gauge inflation, and boy, it was released this morning, and it was not good. The PCE, which stands for Core Personal Consumption Expenditure, increased from 5.2% compared to a year ago. However, the number was down. It was below the 5.3% reading in the month of February, which is the highest number since the 1980s. And then the March number was less than the Dow Jones estimate. So number one, it was lower than February. The March number was lower than February. Number two, the March number missed Wall Street's estimates. And number three, the reason why it's missing is because inflation may be coming down. Let's go over the analysis tonight. From Andrew Hunter, senior U.S. economist at Capital Economics, he says the bigger story tonight is that the data release was further indication that inflation is starting to ease. Starting to ease. Well, you don't want inflation to ease too quickly before your benefits are raised up based upon a new benchmark, inflation. More about that in a second. This comes as Hunter also says it supports our view that inflation will come down more quickly than the federal officials now appear to expect. Oh boy, that's a very troubling quote if you're on benefits. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and railroad benefits. Let's go over why this quote may scare the socks off of you from Mr. Hunter. The quote is basically saying that what Jay Powell is doing will actually be preempted because inflation is going to fall on its own accord faster than people think. Oh boy. Okay, let's go over the equation. When we talk about the situation for your SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and railroad benefits, we're talking about the impact that Jay Powell will do when he comes into Federal Reserve to raise interest rates to bring down inflation. We talked about this a while on this channel for several months. I said I'm concerned whether Jay Powell gets that inflation down before Joe Biden swaps COLA for inflation. You don't want inflation to come down because guess what? You want it to lock in a higher rate. But what Hunter's saying tonight is that inflation may be coming down quicker without Jay Powell than even Jay Powell anticipated. Let's read that Hunter quote again. The quote says that it supports our view that inflation will fall a little bit more quickly this year than federal officials now appear to expect. Oh boy. So he's saying inflation may come down faster than even Jay Powell activates on it. This comes as the BEA release on Thursday showed the GDP, There we go. There's that GDP again. Fell at a 1.4% annualized pace in the first quarter of this year. Oh boy. So we fell 1.4% at a 6% number. So, well, that's just the first quarter of this year. We got 3 more quarters. There are 4 quarters of the quarter. And 3 more quarters, if we keep on dropping at 2% per quarter, we're at 0. Yeah. The disposable personal income declined at 0.4% for the month of March, even though it increased at 0.1% for the month of February. So that's interesting. Income was made less in the month of March. It went down when it was increased in February. Spending rose slightly and personal income accelerated, but savings declined 6.2% compared to 6.8% in February. Okay, so people making a little bit less money, spending a lot more money. It just sounds like a reality show. You're making no money, all you spend your money. What's important to note is that the Hunter comment is a little bit problematic. Let's go over why. Joe Biden promised to swap your COLA for inflation as president. Swapping COLA for inflation would lock in a higher rate. What's at issue? Your benefits, if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, every year are assessed based upon a benchmark. That benchmark is COLA. But COLA don't work. It don't work because COLA is generally a flat number. As a flat number, your benefits don't go up. But this last year, COLA came in at a nice 5%. You may thought it was good when your benefits went up 5% in January. And remember that once they go up, they never go down. And you thought 5% was good until I'm telling you this tonight, that you got cheated. You should have been at 8% at inflation. Instead of 5% at COLA, your benefits would have gone up about $200 more per month. Starting in December, not just that month, not just this year, but a lifetime, because once your benefits go up, they never go down. Now, there's new hope for us tonight. If Joe Biden really makes that phone call to Social Security Administrator head and say, swap that COLA for inflation, then you lock in that $200 more per month tonight. Because inflation may still be at about 8% tonight, even though Hunter's comments make us a little confused. Inflation is likely to be 4% by the end of the year. That's another $100 on top of that. That's SS 300. But you know what Jay Powell's doing. He's head of the Federal Reserve. He's bringing down inflation quickly. The question is how quickly. That's why you don't want to roll the dice on it. You want Joe Biden to make that swap and COLA inflation tonight and lock in that $200 more per month and then $100 later this year. That would be SS 300. Now, Joe Biden has done this before. He picked up the phone and called the Department of Agriculture in October 2021, saying you're not paying enough money, pay more money. And tonight you're going to see the President of the United States picking up the phone and also calling Department of Education saying you got to do some more student loan debt forgiveness. And so he can certainly do this. All he has to do is make the call. Make the call. Now, what does this mean for your Build Back Better Act? And what does this mean for your stimulus? And what does this mean for your SS 300? Economic data, bad. Corporate earnings, bad. Inflation, bad. Recessionary pressure is very clear. Stagflation worries very bad. And with all that bad data, Republicans and Democrats can't say this is a great economy. No one can say that. They look foolish. That's why they got to get you stimulus. A lot of it for stimulus. Build Back Better Act. And they need to get it to you by election. Not night, but an election, mailing of those election ballots. Midterm elections. Now, we just have those problems to deal with. What are the new concerns tonight that we didn't even have last night? There are 2 new concerns on top of those existing concerns that can make this economy even worse than it was a month ago. The first one is the Vladimir Putin fear that he's going to default. The Russian economy and its default has been a subject of this channel for over 2 months, but haven't featured in recent days because he hasn't defaulted. Tonight, it's a lot more scary. Why? Russia has not defaulted since 1917 and the Bolshevik Revolution. But what's at issue tonight is very disconcerting. Back on April 4th, we now learn that Vladimir Putin tried to make some debt payments by paying with Russian ruble. The lenders said, no, do not have an agreement to get paid by ruble. I don't want ruble. The agreement says US dollars or euro dollars. I'm not taking rubles. When Putin attempted to pay on April 4th, tonight we learned that his credit worthiness, or at least his country's credit worthiness, dropped. We learned that Moody's said, and S&P Global said that was not a good move to try to pay with ruble. First, we learned tonight that Russia's foreign debt credit fell to selective default after it attempted to pay by ruble on April 4th. Then we also learned that Moody's Analytics said that it's moving to potential default if it doesn't pay in the correct amount and the correct currency, dollars or euro bonds, by May 4th. Tonight, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that his country has made a payment of $117 million on two denominated euro bonds, getting it done by the May 5th date. Good news there. And that any other further default would be purely artificial. It won't be artificial. Let's make it very clear. Tonight we may be in the clear with a potential Russian default not happening because Russia appears to have come up with euro bond payments. That's good news for you. But the other part of the news that's not particularly good is the oil and the wheat. Boy, as we go into the month of May, just a few days from now, I told you what was an issue back in March. I told you of day one of the Russian invasion of Ukraine that we're going to recession and two events are still with us by May. Guess what? Tonight, they're still with us. The first one was if gasoline remains over $4 a gallon at the pump. I said this is why we need 6 stimulus. That's coming up later in this video. It's still at $4 a pump, according to the AAA national average. Number two, I also said that the price of bread and grains, wheat and corn stay at the current levels, the highest levels we've seen in a generation. In the month of May, we're going to recession. Well, they are. The numbers are actually worse for oil tonight. The numbers are worse for wheat and corn than when I made that recording back in March. Now, the White House has had solutions and opportunities to get those solutions, but they haven't inked them. They had the JCPOA, which would release the Iranian oil, but didn't get it done. The only part of this that's good across this entire landscape is a two-part prong. First, all this bad economic data is good, again, for the Build Back Better Act to get it done. Number two, we also have these midterm elections where Republicans and Democrats have to do something. If they don't do something, they go into the midterm elections looking like they got you nothing, and they're going to lose whichever party it is. Number three, we also have the states. The states have their voting coming up also on election night. Whether there's a governor or state legislator or state senator, they're up for re-election in many cases as well. So they want to get money out. The good news on that front is that the economics are bad. People are up for re-election and need to get you money. Bad economics helps you get stimulus. And what also helps is SS300. This also helps for SS300 because if the economy is not going any slower down on that inflationary drop, then if Joe Biden makes that swap and go to deflation tonight, then you still lock in $100, $200 more per month and then $100 thereafter. Now, out of all this, from left to right and high and low, the great news, whether we're looking at Russia, Ukraine, China, the United States, or the States, is that there has now landed incredible, massive fourth stimulus checks from the federal government and also from the states by direct deposit. And how do you get them? I'm going to go over them right now. This is why I told you to stay with me throughout this entire broadcast, because the great news tonight is that 4 new checks have landed, and it's huge. Let's go over the breaking news tonight. The breaking news tonight is that 4 more states are giving 4 stimulus checks than they were last night. Where are we tonight? We're around 24 U.S. states that are giving a 4 stimulus check or 4 stimulus relief, and that number is likely to grow to 30 in the next few days. What's at issue? Let me tell you what's going on. Back in 2020, Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin, then Treasury Secretary under Donald Trump, had a disagreement. They were trying to do second stimulus negotiations, and she said the states need more money. He said they don't. She said, yes, they do. He said, I'm going to sell it this way. If they need more money, then I'm going to do this. Use or lose. If they got more money, return it back to us right now. If they don't, then there's nothing to return back to us. Use it or lose it. And guess what? I said he was right. He was right. States did have more money, and they used it. They sent you out a stimulus check in late 2020. That was the use it. The lose it would have been they have to return it back to Congress. Tonight, we have another use it or lose it. The difference is a different stimulus package and a different year. When the American Rescue Plan was passed by Congress in early 2021, our Treasury Secretary now, not Steve Mnuchin, but this woman, Janet Yellen, inserted a provision called use or lose once again. The provision was very simple. The states are given big money in third stimulus, and they got to use it or lose it. Lose it means to return it back to her, Use it means give it to you. The date, late December. They got to use it or lose it. And here we are with the breaking news tonight. The breaking news tonight is that more states are using it, and more states had it to use, and it's exactly what I predicted. Let's take it back to a week ago tonight. A week ago tonight, we had two states, Pennsylvania and Maine, that said we got money left over. We're going to use it. Maine saying $500 to $850 stimulus check out, and then Pennsylvania saying about $2,000 stimulus check out. I said at the time, get ready for the lot more states in a few more weeks. I was wrong. It only took 48 hours. In 48 hours, 20 states came forward and said, we're doing much the same. Tonight, 4 more states in less than 24 hours. I fully believe that we're going to grow to at least 30 states by the end of next week. Let me go over the details right now. First, this is money given to the states in January 2021 in the American Rescue Plan, the third stimulus. Number 2, they got to use it or lose it. So to use it, if they got it, how do they got to use it? They got to spend the money on you or spend the money somehow by December 2020, but not really by December. They got to spend it about a month or two earlier, by about October. And that means if they're spending by October, then let's look at the calendar again. That means that they got to have it signed into law by September, get it keyed up for a final vote in August, enter it into the other branch of the state assembly by July, and propose the legislation by about June or May. That means we're right on top of it, and that's why states are announcing it. The details tonight is that states are giving massive checks. The checks are very different, and there's 4 more states that are doing these checks. Every state was given the same amount of money from the federal government under the third stimulus package, whether red or blue, rich or poor, small or large, East Coast or West Coast, every state was given the same amount of money based upon the number of citizens. Now, every state will spend the money. No state's going to return the money back to the federal government. And finally, every state will make the determination to spend it, and when they do, they're going to do it. In the case of state laws, it's very quick. The governor says, I want to do something, then it becomes law very easily, because generally the governor is in the controlling party of both branches of the state government, the state legislature, the state assembly, the state senate. So it's very, very simple across the board. Where are we tonight? Tonight, where we are is the following. We have about 24 states doing those 4 stimulus checks. And which states are they? How much are they giving? When are they giving it? It's all coming up after the commercial break. I told you there's a lot in tonight's video. Then, in the second half of this video, we have those presidential Joe Biden 4th stimulus checks. They're huge. They are huge. They are landing for people on benefits, for people not on benefits, in every single state across the country. They're landing by direct deposit. How do you get them? They're coming up in the second half of this video. Then I'll have my commentary about where this economy is going and what Congress needs to do to keep their seats intact. I haven't analyzed this in a while, and tonight I go over what Congress needs to do, and if they don't do it, what's going to be their future after election night. Those incredible details and your incredible checks coming up after the commercial break. But first, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? You want to become a member to get these incredible checks because that is where you learn about them. Go to the top of the chat or the pinned comment. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Then get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds with these big checks. But first, here's a little bit about the community page as we go into a big night and a big second half for April 29, 2022. Here again is the community page. See you back in 60 seconds as Evenings LA continues from the shores of Santa Monica, California, and a big night with a lot of checks, a lot of major developing details, and a lot of questions. But the questions for you are, when are you going to pounce and get those incredible checks? You don't want to wait. You don't want to question. You want to get all those incredible sums of money. See you back in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them
and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And the excitement continues right now in the big second half of Evenings LA for April 29, 2022. I'm so excited for you, as major checks have landed, and you could not be any more happy than I am. These are the checks you deserve. These are massive checks. These aren't $600 measly checks. These are monsters. And I'm going to show you how to get these incredible, huge, bulking stimulus checks in this second half. First, let's start with incredible details about the states. State forced stimulus checks have now landed by direct deposit. Let's go over the details of each of those checks starting right now and what you need to know. In the case of the use or lose, every state has the money. It's only a question about how much money they have. And the states are all going to use the money. They ain't going to lose the money. Moreover, they're going to make their determination about what to do with the money in the next 30 days. So if I say to you there's 24 states right now, get ready for 30 states. Get ready for 35. Get ready for 40. The number's going to grow. What is the status currently tonight of those 24 states? This is the status at the moment. We have about half of them that have already passed the laws in their states, and the other ones that have proposed the laws, they're coming thereafter. Of the ones that have passed the laws or proposed it, how do they have these checks structured? Different ways. First, the major type of way they have the check structured is an actual pure stimulus check. A check to you in the mail or direct deposit. Very, very simple. And the eligibility for the check is generally single individual, 75,000 or less, and married couple, 150,000 or less. Now, we have some states that have taken that to a different version, which is they say, okay, we will give the check to people who are in that income qualification and for another qualifier. So they have sometimes added a qualifier to it. Other states have said, you know what, we're going to do a hazard pay check just for hazard pay individuals. And there are very, very few states among them. Then some states say that we are going to give you a stimulus relief, like we're not going to have you pay for taxes on a particular item for 2 or 3 months. Now, some states are doing what caused a little bit of confusion for viewers last night on Evenings LA, money off of the tax return. This is where it always gets people a little confused. Let me explain to you why. They're proposing that if you file the tax return for the 2020 or 2021, you get a refund back from the federal government, from the state, from either one or both tax years. This is just certain states, not a lot of states, just a few. Let me explain what this means, because this caused viewers a couple of questions last night. Some viewers thought they have to file tax returns in every state if you don't normally file tax returns. Who am I referring to? I'm referring to my SSI and SSDI viewers who normally maybe don't have to file a tax return. Then they heard the recording last night and thought they had to file it. Let me explain what's going on. If you're a member of this channel and you go into that membership newsletter tonight and you look and see whether your state is the one that says, yeah, we'll do something off of a tax return, then yes, you should file the tax return to get this money. Now remember, you don't have to file a tax return normally, but there's nothing that prevents you from voluntarily filing a tax return. Hopefully that's clear for you across the board. How does this tax return situation work? Well, generally it'll be something like a $500 refund. So let's say you had zero tax liability on a 2020 tax return, and then you have a $500 tax refund reduction. That means you get a $500 check in the mail when you file that 2020 tax return. Again, that's just very few states. The vast majority of states are a pure check. Then the next thing right after that is a pure check with more restrictions to it. Let's say this type of household or that type of household, this type of worker or that type of worker. And those are the two major types of checks across the board. Now, 4 states added to those 20, and I believe the numbers to grow across the board. What's important for you to know is that every every state has fourth stimulus for you. One thing I haven't made clear over recent days is when I talk about the federal Joe Biden executive order presidential fourth stimulus check, that is money he did by executive order. He authorized it. He funded it. But guess who actually pays you the check? Yeah, the states. So what I want you to make very clear tonight, if I haven't made it clear all along, is that when you look at the brand new check D, which we just went over, and the Joe Biden checks, every state has a check for you. Nearly almost every single viewer. What we just went over was check D. It's a fourth stimulus check coming from your state. It has nothing to do with the federal government. This is money given to the states under third stimulus. They haven't seen it around. Use or lose. And now they're going to use it, and they're going to spend it on you. Now, that is coming from your states. Also coming from your states, but what I refer to as Joe Biden's executive order stimulus check, is first check A. Check A was a fourth stimulus check that was supposed to be in the Build Back Better Act. Joe Biden took it out by executive action and now is sending it out by direct deposit. Now, when I say Joe is sending it out by direct deposit, I mean he's funding it. The actual people who pay you is your state. Over this broadcast, over this channel, over the last few months, I explained to you that the way you get this money is going to apply. When you're applying, you're actually applying with your state, but the money was funded by the federal government. All right, so how do you get this check? And who gets it? It's so easy. Direct deposit, baby. Single individual, $75,000 or less, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 or less, you can get it. If you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, veterans benefits, you can get it as well. It's called the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check. The Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check. How do you get it? First, you want to become a member. Go to the top of the chat, pin comment, become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Then sign up for that incredible then you'll get that newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. When you get the newsletter that night, then go right in there and look right at the very top. It talks about Check A. You want to click the link inside of Check A in the newsletter. It'll send you right into the online website application for the federal government. And then you look for your state, like Mississippi. Choose the Mississippi Weatherizing Grant Check, and you apply. There you go. Open that newsletter, go right in there, look for your state, choose the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check in that state, your state, and apply. It's great. It's $6,500, but in many states it's upwards of $12,000. My goodness. And we're not done there. Yes, Joe Biden has also sent out direct deposit the following check as well. It's check B. And that incredible check B is a lot more money. It's $15,000 to $80,000. The average payout is $66,000, $80,000. Yes, it's a fourth stimulus check. Yes, this is sent out by Joe Biden, but you're applying for it at the state level. It's a homeowner's grant, and how do you get this one? Just like Check A, just different website. First, you become a member. Then you go into that newsletter. Then go down until you find Check B in the newsletter. Click the link, and it'll send you into the national website. The national website has a map like this one. On that map, you choose your respective state, and then you pounce and get approved. Once approved, you get funded about 1 week after this program went live. There you go. Now, we're not done there yet. States are also paying out checks to renters and utilities and mortgage assistance and more. And those checks are Check C. States are also giving incredible rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance, still to this day. And it started back in 2020. In 2020, when millions of Americans were waiting for Nancy Pelosi to see Mnuchin to get a stimulus package done and didn't, I said, I got to get your money. So I found it. I found it in what was rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. Didn't really have a name at the time. $250,000 I got viewers at the time. I said, go get it. And they got it, like Tyrone and his family for out of Boston. Then, at the time, I had a document, a preview of a document. Then I said, I think it may become a law in 2021. It did. It became, yes, a third stimulus. And it had the same provisions in there. I said, how great. I had already trained you how to get this money. You learned and you were ready to earn. And viewers really earned. I said, get 15,000. Oh, you did not get 15,000. You averaged a little bit more. You average, what did I just do to my face? You average $45,000. Can you imagine? Instead of 15,000, you went out and got 45,000. That is a true spirit of pouncing like a purple hawk. Now, last summer, you got another round. Last winter, you got another round. Then the spring, go get another round. I said 3 to 4 months. Viewers said no. I said, excuse me? They said, no, I want to get a whole year. And viewers got a whole year, 12 months, and they're still getting it. $2,000 a month. It's huge. How do you get this check C? You're going to reach out to a series of places, and it's important to remember is that if you're a member, which you likely are, you're not reaching out to one place. You're not reaching out to two places. You're reaching out to about 15 places. Let's go over those 15 places right now. You're going to reach out to your city hall, your city house authority, your county hall, your county house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Let's stop the video right there. You're also going to reach out to your state hall and your state house authority. Meantime, you're also going to reach out to the nonprofits featured in the newsletter because you're a member. More about them in a second. Utility assistance because of COVID, mortgage assistance because of COVID. 3 things you must do. You must reach out to all the different places. You must put multiple applications in the file, and you must do as many months as possible, but please open that membership newsletter because you want to pounce with also those nonprofits. Those nonprofits will bring you up to 15 places to reach out to. Go get it right today. You deserve it. Why are you waiting? Get these incredible sums of money tonight. You deserve every single penny of them. That, my friends, is check C. The average payout is $45,000. It is wonderful, and you deserve it. What are you waiting for? That is check C. Get it today, and you pounce. That's check C. Also featured in the membership newsletter. If that went too fast for you, it's all in the membership newsletter. I break it down item by item. Get check C featured in the membership newsletter. Get check D, the state stimulus, featured in the newsletter. Get check B from Joe Biden. Get check A and become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. The membership links at the top of the chat. Become tonight a member and then get that newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, it's a lot to digest, and here's what's important to understand, is that now you see between check A, B, C, and D, there's a lot of money coming from your state. In fact, tonight I can clearly say to you that every single state has money for you. Every single U.S. state is currently paying out some money. They are either paying out money to renters and homeowners, or renters and homeowners. They're either paying out A, B, C, and D, or they're paying out C and D, or they're paying out A, B, and D. They're paying out something of each of these to you. Every single state has money. Every single state is paying out money. Every single state has your available money. This channel is all about learning and earning. So hopefully over this broadcast, you've learned how to earn this money because you don't want to get burned. How would you get burned? Let's go over the details tonight about how someone could get burned. The economy is continually faltering left and right, and that causes confusion. But what's not causing confusion is Joe Biden's adamacy that he is not doing $50,000 of student loan debt forgiveness. So what do we see tonight on that student loan debt forgiveness? This is 7 stimulus. Joe Biden, less than 24 hours ago, pivoted again. This is the quote. I'm not considering $50,000 in debt reduction, but I am in the process of taking a hard, good look at whether there should be additional debt forgiveness. Student loan debt forgiveness has been really one of those elements that makes no sense out of the Biden administration. The president has said he would forgive student loan debts, then came in office, then didn't. Then he said, I'm going to dispatch Miguel Cardona, head of education, to analyze the situation and come back to me. He didn't come back. Then months went on, and then suddenly things zoomed up and fast forward very quickly. Great news day after day. 6 executive orders in 7 days last week. It looked like a great week. First, the president forgave student loan debts for individuals who became disabled after graduation or went to work in the nonprofit or public sector. Next, the president said that if your debts were in default, he's putting them back into good standing. Good. Then he said if your debts were procured by fraud by the university against you, they're forgiven. Oh boy, that is really great. And then a week ago tonight, the Teal Monster, the president's press secretary, said that complete student loan debt forgiveness is still on the table. And 1 week later, he says, no, it's not. Joe. Where's my iPhone? Joe. Yeah. And what did he say? I'm taking a hard, cold look at the situation. Let's run that quote again. I'm taking a hard look at the situation. How long do you got to look at it, Joe? Just look and move on. Look and bounce. Tonight, I believe that the president will forgive $10,000 of student loan debt. He's consistently said, I don't like 50,000. I don't know what's with him in that number. I mean, I do have an opinion about it, but I think the number is 10,000. Many people think the number is going to be 10,000, and that would wipe out about $321 billion of student loan debts and eliminate debts completely for about 12 million Americans. A lot of viewers have gone to student loan debt forgiveness because they've been watching this channel. Again, this is federal student loan debt. Chef John Meyer got about $9,000 forgiven, and other viewers as well. So get these big sums of money. Here tonight, a lot of things to digest and a lot of things to remember. First, it's important to understand that every state has stimulus for you tonight. 4 stimulus available in every state, whether it's A, B, C, or D. And if you rent or own, you likely qualify for one of these checks. Number 2, I still to tonight see some members forgetting about the nonprofits in the newsletter. I see it in their comments. They say something like, I reached out to the city, county, and I'm having problems. Did you call the nonprofits? I used to do a lot about the nonprofits in the scope of a video. I used to mention them. I say this nonprofit and that nonprofit. I used to make it very, very clear. But because there's so many nonprofits, I said, just rely on the newsletter. Just rely on the newsletter. I detail them in the newsletter. In fact, I detail what the nonprofits are very good for. But I'm seeing less and less people remember that the nonprofits are there. The nonprofits are a great resource for you. Don't forget to reach out to the nonprofits to get the funding. Next, it's important to understand that Build Back Better Act and a lot of these programs are going to really ramp up in the next 30 days. You saw how that May 4th date is a big one. This May is going to be May like no other. Why? Let me tell you everything that's happening in the month of May and why it's a lot to digest. First, we really need to get Build Back Better Act done in May, because if it's not done in May, then I don't think it will get done by before the midterm elections. Number 2, we're going to see that first FOMC meeting by Jay Powell with that half basis point, but we're likely also see also guidance about the next meeting thereafter. That next meeting thereafter would be critical because that would give us guidance about what happens for much of the rest of this year. Then, also in the month of May, we're going to see whether Vladimir Putin defaults and whether that default would impact our U.S. economy. Next, of course, you know what I'm about to say. Wheat, grain, corn, unsustainable at current prices into the month of May. We're heading into the month of May. Will they come down or will they not? Then we're also going to see the situation gasoline. $4 a gallon, not sustainable into the month of May. We're into the month of May. Is it going to come down? If it doesn't, we're going to recession. Supply chain disruption. Major supply chain disruption tonight. Not any better. 3 types of it. First one is that Vladimir Putin caused. Well, actually, the second one. The first one is COVID caused. The second one is Putin. The third one is Omicron subvariant and the China disruption. When we hear Apple saying the third quarter of this year, let me say that again, slower. When Apple Computer says the third quarter of this year, not the current quarter, but the one coming up, is going to be very bad because we can't get some component parts into our phones from China, that means they think supply chain disruption is not here just now, not just last quarter, but the quarter coming up after this one. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. And if Vladimir Putin causes more supply chain disruption, if Jay Powell doesn't realize he doesn't have the tools to fix supply chain disruption, which has caused inflation, and no one fixes supply chain disruption, what does that mean for you and I? Here's my projections tonight as we go into the month of May. Number 1, I sadly believe that the price of goods will be about the same or just a little bit lower. I believe that the price of wheat and grain and corn will stay about the same. I believe the price of gasoline will stay about the same and may potentially get worse. The only way that price of gasoline gets better, of course, is the China part of the equation. Remember, China's on lockdown, so they're not driving their cars, so that's why the price of gasoline has stayed relatively stable. If they come out of lockdown, the price of gasoline is going to get a lot worse. Then, the housing market's had 4 down starts for 4 months consecutive. I believe the next month will be down as well, 5th month as well. I believe you're going to start to see the really impact on the housing market because remember, supply is growing. Houses are staying on the market. They're not selling. And as the market becomes glutted with unsold houses, then you see the housing recession looming for big, big hit. A lot of details across the board, but what I want you to know is that this it senses a lot like December 2020. In December 2020, we were watching Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin negotiate what was supposed to be the second stimulus package, the HEROES Act. It didn't happen. But we watched, and I said, You can watch and I'll report and we'll learn what's going on with them, but you aren't earning from that Heroes Act anytime tonight. So when I can get you tonight, I want you to earn. That's what I said in 2020. Tonight's the same narrative. Tonight, I don't want you to look to Build Back Better Act. I don't want you to look to the future and forget about the present. We always look to the future and hope and fight and advocate for future money, which I believe will happen. But I don't want you to miss out. I don't want you to pass up. I don't want you to leave on the table any of check A, B, and C. How do I say it a little bit tougher? A little bit tougher. I don't want you to be lazy. I don't want you to leave check A on the table. I don't want you to leave check B on the table. I don't want you to leave check C on the table. Check C, if you remember, did you call 15 places or did you call 2? Did you call 16 places or did you call 6? Check D, I want you to pounce. I want you to get that incredible newsletter because check D is changing every night. In fact, the newsletter tonight is so long. I had to laugh because it was hard for me to figure it out. The newsletter is so long that when you go into the newsletter now and you go to check D, you know what it says under check D? It says, click here to learn more about check D. Because the newsletter is so robust, so in-depth, so comprehensive, that it now exceeds the word limit of YouTube. So I have to now actually have check D as a link out of the newsletter to somewhere else. And that's where I break down all those respective states. We're on top of it. And when there's a check, I find it from you. My job is to get you the checks, give you the news about the checks, show you how to get the checks. I can't make you take that pen and paper and apply. I can't make you use that finger and push to submit for that application. I can't get that phone in your hand and say, make the call. All I can do is make the recording. If you don't want to make the call, you don't want to make the push for the application, if you don't want to get the application on file, if you don't want to make the phone call, that's up to you. But I want to tell you, that's not a road I would take. That's not a road anyone that saw 2020 would take. The situation is really, really complex tonight. I believe we're going into 2 years of recession. I believe the housing market is already in recession. I believe the auto industry is already in recession. And I believe this recession for 2 years will be very prolonged and very hurtful. And at that time, you're going to see a lot of people who are going to look back and say, you know what? Maybe I should have gotten all that money. I should have gotten every penny. It reminds me of the very first days of this channel when I was telling people about the EIDL loan. And I said, if it's over $25,000, it's collateralized. Viewers were offered $200,000 for SBA. They said, I don't want to be collateralized. I'll take $18,000. And then 2 months later, they said, I really need a lot more money. I need $100,000. I only took $28,000. I only took $15,000. Don't make that error. If you need the money, get the money. Become a member today. Go to the top of the channel, pin comment, and become a member. Next, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on this channel so that you are part of this channel and don't miss an alert. Next, hit that bell on this channel and set it to all alerts because you don't want to miss an alert when the newsletter comes live. From the shores of Santa Monica, California to the shores of the Black Sea, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from north to south, a lot of money is available for you, and I'm excited to get you that money. But ultimately, you got to pounce. And I hope this recording shows you how to learn about how to earn. Don't get burned by hoping that something's going to happen tomorrow or the day after, and it doesn't. Get the checks that are available today, and when the other money happens, get that money as well. Remember, nothing in this channel recorded tonight prevents you from getting the other item in this recording. If you get A, you can also get B. If you get C, you can also get D. If you get the A, B, and C, it doesn't prevent you from getting the Build Back Better Act. If you get Build Back Better Act, it doesn't prevent you from getting the SS300. You can get any of these items. This is not like 2020. Get every item you can get it, get that membership newsletter, pounce, and get all the incredible money. For my family and yours, have a beautiful, blessed night. Stay informed, stay focused. The coverage continues throughout the night with Evenings LA at 5 o'clock, Evenings Countdown at 6 o'clock, Stream the Stimulus at 7, Evenings Extra at 8, and Sunset at 8 and 9 o'clock. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful night, and stay with LALATE for more.